Hey, Reluctant Preppers, you could have been watching this video the moment it came out
by going to HealingYourself.Life and subscribing to our new sister channel, Healing Yourself. See you there.
It seems so hard to order. Who can I trust, and how do I even start?
Oh, you just go to sdbullion.com/rp, pick out whatever gold or silver you want, add it to your cart, you can check out, and it's on its way. And they're A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau.
Wow, it's that easy?
Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/rp. HealingYourself.Life provides information for awareness, educational, and support purposes only and does not diagnose or prescribe treatment for any medical condition. Viewers are encouraged to do their own due diligence and consult with their own medical caregivers before making personal treatment decisions. Welcome back to HealingYourself.Life. I'm your host, Dunnigan Kaiser.
And I'm Melody Kaiser.
And once again, we have a returning guest, Dr. David Seaman. He has the distinction of being a diet and inflammation expert. In fact, he wrote the first scientific paper on diet and inflammation. Dr. Seaman is also a doctor of chiropractic and has a Master of Science in Nutrition. Dr. Seaman, thank you for joining us again here on HealingYourself.Life.
Thanks.
Great to have you.
Hey, we wanted to get you back on because you just published another book in your series about the important effects of diet and inflammation on health. This one is the DeFlame Diet and Deflame Your Breasts for Breast Cancer. And you're talking about how not only for breast cancer, but also for
prostate health.
Prostate cancer, all cancers. It's all the same. All cancers that have tumors are essentially the same. But I'm not going to write, many books on different cancers. I'm going to tackle the big ones. So I'm going to look at a big one for female health, which would be breast, and I'll look at one for male health at some point, which will be prostate and low T and erectile dysfunction, because they're all similar problems when it comes to chronic inflammation driving all of them. And if people understand that, then the husband and the wife, if they listen to like something about prostate cancer, and the wife's like, I've got breast cancer, same stuff you got to do. And vice versa.
That can be so important because we know a number of couples who one or the other of them have gotten plugged into some information because of some health concern, and it can like pull a family apart if they feel like, oh, now we got to make one meal for the family and one meal for this special person or something. And your message is
same. Yeah, same approach. You just want to get rid of the inflammatory foods and get all the markers normal. And the most important one is eating less calories. It is really shocking. It is absolutely shocking how little calories we need as mostly or semi-sedentary people.
Oh.
It's really shocking. And if you think about overweight and obesity, both of those help to create the metabolic state of chronic inflammation that drives cancer. So the first thing is cut your calories down and basically weigh what you weighed when you were in college, let's just say, unless you were really skinny or if you were spitting water out of your mouth because you're a wrestler trying to like wrestle 10 pounds below what you should be.
Right.
Not that guy. We're talking the average person. So when I was in college, my senior year, because I was a high jumper and I put on some muscle mass after that, and I weighed about 170. What do I weigh now? 170. Now that doesn't guarantee that I'm going to be healthy because so many factors come into play. But in terms of my body's weight, I'm in a deflame state, and that's what we should all want to be. And then do more things like get right sleep, exercise, have the right friends, keep the right thoughts in your head. Don't get too crazy about all of your scary, reluctant preppers stuff where everything's coming to the end.
Right.
I mean,
it is.
I know. Oh, listen.
But you have to enjoy life,
Right.
regardless of what. If we anticipate what's going to happen, we're not living in the present. So we do need, it's good to prep for things, but you've got to also live in the present and enjoy life. Because otherwise you'll have,
reluctant preppers. The reluctant part is great. Yeah, because it is. Why do I have to do this? This is one more thing I got to deal with. But all of those stressors, as we age, we dwell on it more, and then you can start to not exercise enough, not sleep right, stress out like crazy, add more burdens, take on debt, eat like crap, fly around a lot, work, and then say, well, I travel a lot, therefore that's my problem. Well, I travel a lot too, and I weigh what I weighed when I'm 59 now, so I weigh what I weighed when I was like 20. And that's what we should be.
Okay.
And that's shocking for like a lot of my friends who I run into in high school and college. If you kind of catch up at a reunion or something like that, think, well, what should I do? I said, well, you should weigh what you weighed when you were in college. That's like 30 or 40 pounds ago. I'm like, well, how'd you feel 30 or 40 pounds ago? Good or not good?
Younger.
Felt great. How do you feel now? Terrible. Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Pretty straightforward.
Right.
Yeah.
So in your first book, can you hold up the first book?
Sure, yeah. The
DeFlame Diet, which is a larger and now companion volume, because in your new book, Deflame Your Breasts, and the DeFlame Diet for Breast Health and Cancer Prevention, you keep mentioning in here principles that drive you back into the other book for more detail, but you do a very concise summary and provide some of the graphics and that sort of thing in here that really help people to draw the conclusions that they need. The first thing that occurred to me as we were reading through this was we've in recent years always been thought that cancer is a relatively modern thing, and it's because our environment has gotten full of all poisons and toxins and things. But your message in here is that a lot of the causes of cancer are not just like you can not buy a bunch of toxic chemicals or something and still be at a very high risk for cancer. And on the back of the book, you got all these other factors listed.
Yeah, hold those up there. People tend to want to focus on the fourth one, xenoestrogens, which is basically pollutants, essentially, and cigarette smoking. And then all the rest of it, they say, well, I'm not going to really think about it. And then a lot of people think and understand now that like sugar is problematic, but they think that if you eat sugar, you're going to get cancer, which is quite foolish. Because how much sugar does what is one sugar tolerance? What is one donut or Twinkie tolerance level? And then the way you figure it out is to basically just do proper blood tests. I mean, standard blood tests, a fasting blood test where you measure glucose, hemoglobin A1C, triglycerides, HDL cholesterol. I mean, just those things alone will tell you how flamed up you are. And so when we get into this high blood glucose, high triglyceride state, that's essentially a precancerous state.
Okay.
As well as now see, here's the weird thing. You can end up with high glucose, high triglycerides, low HDL, way elevated oxidized LDL, and the husband might get heart disease or diabetes, and the wife might become depressed. So they go off to the medical doctor, they get different prescriptions, or they go to a natural health practitioner, and they give different supplements, and they are not told that basically the reason why you have these conditions is because they're essentially biochemically the same. It's a chronic inflammatory state. You're both 30 or 40 pounds heavier than you were. You gain weight together, so you kind of like start to look worse together, but you didn't really notice it because you're aging and looking worse together, and all your friends are the same way. and somehow I caught cancer, as opposed to I pursued cancer. I pursued depression, and I achieved my goal of depression or cancer. And it's easier to do with depression because that's easier to pull back from, because depression is just annoying. Cancer can kill you, obviously.
Right.
So we'd be much better off if we, as we are pursuing aches and pains as we age, realize that aches and pains as we age are also inflammatory. And if you do it long enough and you're unlucky in terms of genetic expression, a couple of additional pushers like the environment in terms of carcinogens, and then you get pushed into expression. But everybody wants to blame toxins.
Right.
And virtually no one can name a specific, well, let's say plasticizers, which are definitely a problem, but all these unknown toxins that are everywhere. Well, it's that is not the best way to look at any disease where it's like one specific thing, unless you really just got bathed in it. If you're not bathed in that stuff, you have to have enough of the pro-inflammatory, pro-cancer signaling molecules being activated in order for your cells to become, the term that cancer researchers use is the cells become immortalized. So you have a cell. So the way this works is that cells are supposed to go through a breakdown cycle. So we haven't talked in a year, let's just say, well, we have different cells, and a lot of our cells from a year ago are gone, and they've been replaced. So you're supposed to go through this process. It's called apoptosis. It's called programmed cell death. And there's a special organelle that I talk about in one of the chapters. It's called a mitochondria. And some people will recognize mitochondria because what they do is they are the organelle. So you have a cell. Let's just think of, so here's a cell wall, and inside you got a whole bunch of, you get the nucleus. You've got a whole bunch of other organelle, they're called. Well, one of these organelles is called mitochondria, and mitochondria makes energy. But mitochondria are also able to sense when the cell is reaching its critical senescent point where it should be tanked or killed, apoptosis. So the mitochondria create this pore that kills the cell that they're living in. And so what happens is part of the now, I can't say for leukemias, but solid tumors. What happens with solid tumors is that they have to turn off the mitochondria, or enough of them, so the cells cannot kill themselves. And so then the cells replicate and grow. And so, so I'll just pull this out and kind of, and show you the picture, because it is worthwhile to look at so people can visually see it. Here we go. So let's just see.
This is the normal. I just pulled it up too.
There you go. So there's on the left side is this convoluted inner membrane, and then on the right side there's this basically circular membrane. Well, the convoluted inner membrane is what is required in order for mitochondria to initiate programmed cell death to kill a cell that could otherwise become cancerous. So chronic inflammatory stimuli cause the inner membrane of the mitochondria to morph into what you see on the right side, and the mitochondria on the right side is incapable of killing the cell that should die. And multiple inflammatory stimuli is what drives it, among other factors. There's a whole bunch of things that have to happen in terms of cancer expression, but that's a big one. So when people talk about how sugar is loved by cancer cells, it's because it's the mitochondria that utilize ketones and fats in addition to glucose. But once the inflammatory state tanks, basically makes the mitochondria no longer functional, now a different pathway has to be used exclusively for energy. It's called glycolysis. It's a little short pathway, and that is where you make what's called lactic acid. And so that glycolytic pathway, the glycolysis pathway, becomes very, very overactive. And so that causes the areas around and within the tumor to be very acidic because the glycolytic pathway becomes hyperactive. It's called aerobic glycolysis. And so now it becomes acidic, and all the energy that the cancer cell is deriving comes from sugar at that point. And that's why glucose is a problem. It's not like, geez, you have a donut, and I'm like, you're going to get cancer. That's what a lot of people think. Cancer, sugar causes cancer. Well, not necessarily. Because a lot of people eat ice cream their entire life, never get cancer.
Right.
My grandmother, the last of my grandparents who passed away, she always ate ice cream. She didn't die of cancer. So just to say sugar causes cancer is kind of like foolish. Now, I'm not saying go eat sugar, but the point is, once a cell becomes cancerous, then it almost exclusively lives off of blood glucose that is being broken in terms of cell breakdown or protein breakdown, and it's called gluconeogenesis. Our body can make it, but also dietary sugar. And that's why really avoiding sugar and flour and refined oils, because it's the refined oils that are omega-6s that then, in particular when it comes to breast cancer, the omega-6 fatty acids, which is, and the way to visualize that is just think French fries. French fries are cooked in omega-6 oils, or omega-6 rich oils.
When you say omega-6 oils, what are those oils that people should be avoiding? What specific oils have a lot of omega-6?
Peanut oil, any deep fry oil, right? So any deep fry oil is a problem. So peanut oil, soybean oil, cottonseed, sunflower, safflower, all those oils. People like, and grapeseed oil has some anti-inflammatory benefits, but grapeseed oil has mostly omega-6, so I wouldn't use grapeseed oil either.
And corn oil and
corn oil, right? Got corn oil. Canola is not a problem in terms of omega-6s. It's way, way less. Canola has more omega-3s than omega-6s, but humans have not lived on canola oil for a long time, so I do not know what the long-term outcome will be as we become canola-ized.
We've switched ours to olive oil and coconut oil, some avocado oil actually too.
Well, avocado oil is essentially identical to olive oil.
Oh, okay.
All practical purposes, from a scientific perspective, people can say, wow, this got this, it's got that, but practically speaking, it's the same thing.
Okay.
So here would be mirror images, essentially: olive oil, avocado oil, and then macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts are essentially avocado nuts, olive oil nuts, in terms of fatty acid breaking. Yeah.
So macadamia nuts are great, because when we switched from milk a while ago, I switched to the macadamia nut milk, which is quite good, but it was such high in calorie that I had to go to flax. Yeah, I had to go to some flax. So I mix the two sometimes. To lessen the calories. But
right.
Yeah, it's very tasty, and it sounds like it's good for you too.
Absolutely, and for macadamia nuts, there's virtually no omega-6s. It is like literally the only omega-6 fat free nut. Every other nut has omega-6s in amounts higher than you would want if you sit there and eat handfuls of them. Now, I like cashews. I like pistachios. I like almonds. I like the combination. But I just try to force myself to go macadamia because, well, who needs the extra omega-6 fatty acids? Because it is well known that so you have something called linoleic acid, which would be here, and then that gets converted into something called arachidonic acid, and arachidonic acid in the body becomes something called prostaglandin E2. And if you look, so PGE2 is the acronym. You could take any cancer and just do a Google search: PGE2 and breast cancer, PGE2 and prostate cancer, PGE2 and cancer in general, and you'll see it is always promotional. So this is why sugar and flour and the omega-6 oils, which is what the average American eats, about 60% of their calories from those sources. So there's no wonder why cancers are surging. And all the cancer stuff, all the ribbons and all the walking and all the crying and everything else that goes on, you'll see people sitting there crying and hugging and basically eating donuts. Which is problematic.
Right.
Because they're concerned about it and they're busy pursuing it in that same moment by eating those foods.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. Now, there was another interesting thing in the book on NF-KB. You want to explain a little bit more about that?
Sure. So it's called nuclear factor kappa B. It's a key signaling molecule. So just think about dominoes, like you watch a whole domino kind of roll down. Well, nuclear factor kappa B, NF kappa B, is a key domino in the production of inflammation.
Okay.
And multiple factors activate the nuclear factor in our cells. So it's very, very difficult to turn on cancer or any other disease if the nuclear factor is being properly regulated. So the best way to jack up the nuclear factor, to jack up the pro-inflammatory chemicals, is to overeat sugar, flour, and refined oils, the same stuff. And there it is. That's it right there. There you go. Right in the middle there, you can see on the left side of the screen, or my left side of the screen, where it says NF-kappa B, nucleus, and all those chemicals. See, people get like, wait, I can't learn this because I don't know what IL-6 is. Who cares? It's an inflammatory chemical. Too much is problematic. And then if you look up top, you'll see the average American eats 40% of our calories from refined carbohydrates, sugar and flour, 20% from refined oils. And when you do that long enough, you can see you get low omega-3s, low magnesium, low vitamin D, low polyphenols and carotenoids, which are found in vegetables, and you get screwed up gut bacteria, and that just jacks up inflammation more. HDL goes down, we become obese, and it just keeps rolling. We start smoking cigarettes, plasticizers, and it just goes on and on. Then you have this mass of causative factors that blast people into an inflammatory state, and one outcome, unfortunately, is breast cancer, which is so catastrophic for people.
Right.
Catastrophic for families. I've had friends I went to high school with, died early 50s. Yeah, it's just boom, she's gone. Oh my God.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Terrible.
Yeah.
It's catastrophic because in that case, you're 50 and now the husband is single and he's sitting there with 2 or 3 or who knows how many kids who are 20 or 25.
Right.
So it's catastrophic.
Yeah, right. It affects, and I think everybody knows somebody. We've all been touched by, we know somebody who's had cancer or has died from cancer, and it's a very serious thing. I had a friend who had breast cancer. She was on our show, and she really changed her whole diet around and is fine now. But it really did take a life change that she was committed to, And you're right. Once you've had cancer, or if you have it in your body, then you really do need to avoid sugar, because the cancer feeds on sugar. It loves sugar.
Absolutely.
Can you explain more about what you meant? A couple times way back in the beginning of this talk, you said cancer expression, or expressing itself. What in the world does that mean?
So think of it like this. Think about it like a flower blooming, right? It blooms, it emerges, right? So I've got a bunch of canna lilies, and I don't really know which ones are going to express which color. It's like, oh yeah, that's the yellow and red. That's the red. That's the this. So they express their colors, and you know which plant is which plant, right? Or, for example, you plant seeds in the ground. I forget what I planted. Was it peppers here or this there? And then they express themselves. Oh yeah, the tomatoes, the peppers, the potatoes, or whatever it happens to be. A few years back, I planted some sweet potatoes, and I'm like, that kind of looks like peppers, and not growing up, it's growing out. I'm like, oh yeah, sweet potatoes. So I had a sweet potato like the size of a football.
Oh wow!
So expression means the flame builds up, the flame is building, and then poof, it expresses the color of the flame, and the flame could be prostate cancer for a male, it could be colon cancer, it could be diabetes or heart disease or depression, women, breast cancer, colon cancer, and these same other conditions, chronic pain. So you get expression of diseases. So it kind of builds, it's kind of like it gathers steam. The flame gathers steam silently, and then it emerges. So it's kind of like the way people describe an iceberg, right? The iceberg wasn't this massive thing initially, because up top it had to have a big base, right? And then it grows and gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and now, boom, it emerges. And that's the way you want to look at all chronic diseases.
So is it possible then, let's say you have a genetic predisposition or family history of cancer, that sort of thing, that you might say, yep, that's true, that tendency or that propensity is in your family lineage, but by having the right lifestyle choices, you can inhibit the expression of that, so you reduce your chances that you'll be one of those in your family line where cancer expresses itself. Is that
Yes. It's much easier because cancer is tricky, right? It's way, way, way complicated. Diabetes is a lot easier, but it works the same way. So I've run into a lot of people, and they say, yeah, diabetes runs in my family. So I'll ask the guy, and I go, I go, well, what do you weigh now? He goes, well, 230. I go, well, when you weighed 170, did you have diabetes? He goes, no. So your father who has diabetes and your uncles, when they were 170, 180, did they have diabetes? No. What do they weigh now? 250. Well, it's not genetic.
Right.
I mean, you're just a family of overeaters. And then you'll push it into expression. My uncle developed brain cancer, which is, I mean, most cancers, they're not even remotely genetic, except in the case of in terms of if you have the gene, you're going to get it. Like the big famous breast cancer gene is called is BRCA. Breast cancer gene is called BRCA. BRCA1, BRCA2.
Right.
So Angelina Jolie and a couple others. What was that blonde?
I can't think of her name. I could think of Angelina, but
Ted Bundy, not the weird Bundy, the funny Bundy guy for Family, whatever it was.
I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. But
Applegate, Christina Applegate.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, and she got it young. She actually got breast cancer, right?
She did. Yeah. I don't know if she got it. I think she
preemptively as well. Okay.
Right, and so electively had a double mastectomy because she had the BRCA gene. Yeah. So here's the thing about breast cancer sufferers or the breast cancer population. 95% of women who have 95% of women with breast cancer do not have the BRCA mutation.
Right.
So
I remember that you said that in your book.
Yeah. And so what happens is overeating those omega-6 oils, which is called linoleic acid, and you find it in deep fried oils, all those corn, safflower, sunflower, all those oils. The prostaglandin E2, which is in several pictures, that PGE2, what it does is it actually creates a functional mutation in the BRCA gene. So you actually get a functional mutation because BRCA is an inhibitor of cancer, and omega-6 fatty acids inhibit BRCA, which then releases the estrogen system to express cancer.
So really, having the BRCA gene is actually not a bad thing.
Because the BRCA mutation is a problem.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, the BRCA mutation means that yours isn't working well.
Okay.
So the BRCA is a tumor suppressor, and the mutation is a is a bad BRCA gene, which is no longer functioning as a tumor suppressor. And what this does, like most women who develop breast cancer are going to either take, if they're estrogen receptor positive, which is like 80 or more % of them, they'll be taking an estrogen antagonist medication. It'll be either a receptor blocker or an inhibitor of estrogen production. So one is called Arimidex, which reduces estrogen production, and the other one is going to be tamoxifen, which is going to be an estrogen receptor antagonist. Actually,
but the problem with some of those drugs too, then, like tamoxifen, we have someone we know who is taking it, but then she got the blood clot. So it's not like those aren't without issues as well.
Right. So what we want to do is do everything we can to not overproduce estrogen by our own diet. Okay. And so the way you overproduce estrogen, this takes place locally in the breast tissue. Like it's the fibroblasts that should turn into fat cells. They're kind of like, they like morph, but they don't, and they start pumping out estrogen. And what drives the estrogen production is the omega-6 fatty acids that I talked about before.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there's this enzyme called aromatase, and aromatase is involved in estrogen production. So Arimidex and there's others, but that's the most famous one. Arimidex blocks aromatase. The BRCA gene working properly regulates aromatase production. If you overeat refined oil, sugar, flour, and cooked in oils, nuts roasted in those same oils.
Sure.
Yeah. And anything deep fried, all of those foods, they will produce extra PGE2, and that PGE2 over time, if it hits the critical threshold for that person's individual makeup, it will inhibit BRCA and allow aromatase to produce excess estrogen.
Okay.
So, yeah.
For guys, you also wrote to me after I did a recent talk about testosterone, natural, drug-free, restoring your testosterone, and here you're talking about estrogen levels being a problem in women. When we had our levels tested, I had 3 times the estrogen that you had. I had like 90 or 30 or something like that.
Yeah.
And for guys, they were saying that like chronic stress, for one thing, your cortisol can keep your body like converting your testosterone into estrogen or something. So there's I'm wondering if for guys, like you've mentioned the implication on women's health of these dietary changes, could you touch just briefly, because you talked about reducing the chances of prostate cancer, what's the relationship there for guys? Because you mentioned like breast tissue being a source of estrogen production, but for guys, where's estrogen coming from in guys?
I can't say for sure how estrogen works in terms of prostate expression, but what I can say for sure when it comes to when we were talking about low testosterone before, because you mentioned that first. So as guys age, as the average, 70% of the adult population in the U.S. is either overweight or obese.
Wow.
And so what happens as we increase our body fat, particularly body fat around our organs called visceral fat. Yeah. So visceral fat in particular pumps out a lot of pro-inflammatory chemicals called cytokines. They're proteins. And the visceral fat does that because immune cells, if you catch a cold, you feel kind of like run down, and we think our immune system is inhibited. But in actual fact, that run down feeling is because of an overproduction of cytokines, which means our immune system is overactive. And so what happens is that as we become obese, the swelling fat cells create a couple of problems. That once they go through apoptosis, they dump all this stored fat, mostly saturated. It doesn't have to be from diet though, because eating sugar and flour in excess becomes saturated fat in storage.
Okay.
Eating sugar and flour increases circulating. So if you eat a 1,800 calorie ketogenic diet, which is and a lot of saturated fatty acids in that diet, compared to an 1,800 calorie a low saturated fatty acid, high carbohydrate diet, you do a blood test, you'll find higher levels of saturated fatty acids in the carbohydrate eaters compared to the saturated fat eaters, as long as you're in a hypocaloric state.
Okay.
So what happens is that fat cells, they store fat, and they store the fat that we eat, really the sugar and flour that we overeat for most people. And that becomes stored as saturated fatty acids when these big old swollen fat cells break down. Immune cells react to those saturated fatty acids the way they react to a pathogen. And they pump out these pro-inflammatory proteins called cytokines. And it creates local inflammation within the fat mass, but then because your fat supply has a blood supply, or your fat mass has a blood supply, those cytokines produced in the fat mass circulate around the body. And for guys, what happens is these cytokines, they inhibit the testosterone producing cells in the body. People think that they're the testicles, but they're actually called Leydig cells. So Leydig cells within the testicles. Leydig cells produce testosterone, and these pro-inflammatory cytokines inhibit testosterone production. So you go back to being lean when you're in college. Well, when you're lean in college, how'd you feel? Pretty good. You felt pretty virile? Yeah. Okay, how do you feel now? Not so much. Well, how much do you weigh? 50 pounds. That 50 pounds of fat is making you more, essentially, metabolically feminized.
Okay.
Yeah. So that will apply to low testosterone. When it comes to the estrogen and prostate cancer, don't really know so much about how that works. But everything else in the breast cancer book that I just wrote applies to that, like the sugar flour problem, the omega-6 fatty acid problem, the lack of iodine in the diet, too much lack of vitamin D. All those anti-inflammatory factors, when they are withdrawn, it increases the risk for all cancers, and for guys, the most common male cancer is going to be prostate cancer.
Right. Yeah, something we should touch on then, since we've been talking a lot about how we get the cancers, by inflaming our lives. How can we deflame our lives? I know we touched on that the last time we talked because of your first book. And so it is a little bit similar, I think, in the second book here on the DeFlame diet for breast health. How can we deflame ourselves? What kind of a diet looks really good for people, both male and female, to so that we can avoid getting cancer to begin with? You could literally just look at the cover of the book, right? So you look at the healthy breast, right? Yeah. And then the inflamed breast. So what's the inflamed breast eating? Right. Yeah. White bread, French fries, cupcakes. And that's the same picture that I have on the cover of the DeFlame diet, where you can see on the bottom there the same stuff, white bread. So all the books that I write are going to be the same message. We overeat. Now, people say, well, can I ever have a donut again? Well, yeah, but why is that your question? Right. Like, if you're 50 pounds overweight, why are you worried about, can I have a donut? Well, I think, the thing is, I realized when Dunnigan and I were doing our Candida diet, what happened for us was I still wanted sugar. And now that we've been through it for a long time, I don't desire, if we go out to eat, then I'll we'll have a dessert together. We split it usually. So I think
we
people
had
are
asking. Lovely drive-by self-shooting, as you like to call them, on our wedding anniversary.
It was our
recently.
anniversary, yeah. It was really good. It was very good.
Caramel rum soaked cake.
That's
it was
delicious.
We talked.
It was bourbon, actually.
But you weren't invited, but you were there at the table. I said, Dr. Seaman, he's not going to find out about this.
Listen, if I was there with you, if I was walking by and saw you, I would have probably grabbed a spoon and kind of dug in a little bit too. Yeah.
Anyway, so once in a while, it's good, But I think that
day if you want.
Yeah, when I was quite overweight, that was my question. And I think that's the thing, is that people who are off sugar for a while don't understand. Well, people who like sugar really are there. I think we talked about this before. There is an addiction to it. You crave it. I wanted my M&Ms, and now I could care less about an M&M.
Right.
You just care less about it.
You have to force yourself to avoid it so that you get control of. So on the cover of the weight loss book, it says, you can see right there, it says, learn how to control your eating beast within. Yeah. And so when everyone says, well, can I have a donut? That's the eating beast talking. Can I have French fries? That's the eating beast talking. How about let me just control myself for a month. I'll have a little bit. I'm gonna go lower in calories. I'm gonna start getting some of the body fat off. I'll have a little taste once in a while. I won't bring it home, because if I bring it home, I'm going to bring more home than I should, and I'll eat more of it. Because once you fall back into it, all of a sudden, it appears who brought the M&Ms in the house?
Right, exactly.
I mean, I don't want them to go to waste. I guess I.
They will go to your waste, but yeah.
Right. Exactly. So people need to, think about it in a much more modified way. And I don't like, the idea of everything in moderation. That's pretty stupid, frankly, because for certain people, they should have no gluten at all, none, right? So everything in moderation is basically the eating beast making excuses to keep eating like a beast.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And that's why that weight loss book is good, because it speaks to the psychology of eating, and then also it alerts us to the fact that we live in this obesogenic environment. And that's actually a scientific word. So you could also call it a cancerogenic environment.
Okay.
A heart diseaseogenic environment, a depressionogenic environment. Yeah, because not sleeping, stressing, overeating, and not moving creates a chronic inflammatory state. And depending upon your genetic makeup, I don't mean genes where you're going to get breast cancer. I'm talking your just genetic makeup to express flame, and then however it emerges in one's body at that point, because everyone's a little bit different.
Right.
But doing those four things is what causes all of these of these chronic inflammatory problems. Yeah.
We were talking before we started the interview about how so many serious diseases and chronic diseases are inflammatory in their nature. Can you circle back with us on why, like you said, when you feel rotten when you have a cold, you blame it on the cold, but it's actually most of your rotten feeling is caused by your body's response. It's like it's a battleground, and you happen to be not an innocent bystander. Sometimes an innocent bystander in this battle that's raging, so you're getting a kind of casualty on the side. But why does your body seem so bent on creating inflammation in certain circumstances? Is it ever a beneficial response? Why would your body be wired that way?
It initiates healing.
Right.
So if you sprain your ankle, it's going to swell. That is inflammation. And then if you keep standing on your ankle after you sprain it, will it ever heal? No. Right? So you don't stand on it. You ice it. You elevate it. You take some anti-inflammatory drugs or supplements, and you wait it out, and it heals and it goes away. Well, the problem, that's acute inflammation that leads to healing. Chronic inflammation is a non-healing state. And so overeating, being sedentary, stressing out, not sleeping, those are the four big lifestyle, smoking too, of course. But those other, take away smoking, almost everybody in America has a problem with too much calories, not enough exercise, not enough sleep, and too much stress. So the human body is and now with this insanity of social media, I love it. I love it when I don't bring this on purpose. I don't love it when I think I bring it with me and I think I lost it and I forget. right?
Yeah.
Well, then I have this thing around me. I'm like, I hate this thing because it's always there, never ends, and that becomes a source of stress also, which everybody pretty much recognizes, right? The social media stuff, particularly for the younger kids, how it can become highly stressful. So all that stuff, we're supposed to just look outside and see pretty sky and green trees and growing food. And if you're a hunter, you go out there and not be exposed to this endless stress and all the the reluctancy part of your prepperness. Why are you doing that? Because of more stressors that are being put upon us externally by this corrupt system that we live in, essentially. So we've got that stressor that is put upon us not by choice. So we have these stressors that are put upon us, and then, like fools, we make it worse by making bad lifestyle choices where we pursue more stress through lifestyle choices, and in this case, diet, for us. So the body should heal. But it's difficult for the body to heal when you're overeating, not sleeping, stressing, and not exercising. And that creates a non-healing state that's fertile ground, it's like fertilizer for disease.
Right. Yeah.
So the simplest thing for everyone to do is to get back to their college weight. So for women, most women reach their mature body weight by 18 years of age. Most are fully matured by 16.
Right.
Most. Yeah. Not all, but 18, 20 for sure. Guys is typically 22 to 25. And so women should be, for the most, on average, what they weigh between 16 and 20. guys between 20 and 25.
So what do you tell women who have gone through menopause and go, it's really hard to keep the weight off and that sort of thing because the metabolism is slowed or whatever? You don't buy that.
No. I know it's not true.
Okay.
But I don't like to argue with women who are in menopause and are convinced that they're right about that, because then they're just going to think I'm just a mean guy.
Uh-huh.
So I try not to argue with them. So I don't. But if there but if there's like a crack, in the armor that I can get into, well, I'll give you an example. One time I was told, this is really funny. She says to me, she goes, "Well, it's nice you're talking about this, but I'm in menopause now, and the female hormones and losing weight is impossible, blah blah blah." I'm like, I'm not going to argue with you, because nothing I say would make an impact. Uh-huh. But then she found something that worked for her mind.
Oh. So
5 years later, when she's 5 years older and allegedly 5 years less able to lose weight, she loses like 40 pounds.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Caloric restriction will cause anyone to lose weight. Now, the problem is, the way to find out how difficult it is to do caloric restriction is to just go to a restaurant, because they almost all now put calories there.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of calories usually, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So a pound of spring mix that you can get, the pre-washed spring mix in the container, a pound of your spring mix is 100 calories.
Mm-hmm.
A little side salad is 350 calories. Why is that? Because they put 3 scoops of dressing on there. Each one is 150 calories.
Right.
So the calories are coming from dressing.
Mm-hmm.
The 40 pieces of lettuce, no calories.
Right. By the time you chew, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a salad. It's basically like dressing soup with some a little bit of green condiment on it. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So I was at a restaurant last night, and I'm like, look over there, and all I see is a sea of like flesh, right? And they're just drinking, and just like the deep fried food goes by with the fries and the Coke and then the salad dressing, which I can't even see the vegetables or the lettuce because it's just all white on top. That's not a salad.
Yeah. Right.
So people think, well, I ate a salad. No, you drank some dressing.
Right. That's exactly. Yeah. We usually order it dry now, but I was really into sauces and things like that, which I know, oh goodness, a hollandaise sauce, all of that, just lovely. And my son actually had a dream one time and was saying, it's too dangerous. You can't have that sauce.
I think, the waiter, you were asking the waiter for a big boat of
it
isn't safe.
It isn't safe. So obviously those days are over for me, but I can.
Well, you could do it though. Here's how you could do it if you like it, because I can tell, Melody, you really like that stuff.
I do, yeah.
So here's how you can do it. So in one of the chapters, I don't have on the back of the book, but there's a chapter on fasting, because fasting is such a big thing now, right?
It is.
And so, but here's why fasting is difficult for the average person. It's really easy for like mentally engaged athlete type people, because they'll do anything, right? They'll do anything, athletes, to get an edge. But the average overweight person, you say, they can't stop eating. And now you're going to say, eat nothing?
Right.
Right? I mean, how do you deal with that? You're just shoveling crap in your face all day long, right? And now you're going to eat nothing all day long. It's like, it doesn't work. So the way to retrain your brain and to develop some benefits of fasting, although it's not like the like, say, a pure water fast for a week, which is a very different story, but is to do what's called time-restricted feeding. And so I used to be a breakfast eater. I'm not anymore. So I eat my last meal, last bit of food, try to be 8 o'clock, and then nothing will enter my mouth again for at least 13 hours. I go for 16 hours every day, and the reason why is because the longer that you fast, you facilitate beneficial mitochondrial function.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's actually very metabolic. It's extremely metabolically advantageous to not eat for at least 13 hours.
Okay.
16 is good, and longer is fine. Like 1 meal a day is fine.
Okay.
So, you want to do some hollandaise sauce?
Do it on that one meal.
Do time-restricted feeding.
Right.
Keep your calories way down during the day, 500 or less, and then have 1,000 or more calories with hollandaise sauce at night. And no problem.
Right.
So you have to be, they made fun of good old George W. Strategery. You got to use strategery when it comes to picking your calories. Yeah. So you can certainly do hollandaise sauce if you want.
Right.
But I would suggest, and actually in the fasting chapter, I came across a cool paper where they looked at women who had breast cancer, so they were survivors, and they looked at reemergence of breast cancer. And the women who fasted at least 13 hours between dinner and breakfast had less expression or less reemergence of cancer.
Wow, that's really amazing.
Well, why would that be? It's because you're basically your mitochondria love to be in a fasted state.
Okay.
Because your body breaks down fat, and the fat is what mitochondria are fantastic at burning. And so it's very, very beneficial to do time restricted feeding for everybody.
Okay.
What about people who say that intermittent fasting or fasting in general is counterproductive because our bodies, the reason we're even here having this conversation is because we are survivors of countless generations of people who haven't starved.
Right, real snackers.
And
some promote the whole idea of snacking throughout the day.
The human physiology is always trying to protect you from starvation, so that if you start fasting, your body will switch over into storage mode, and you're more likely to put on fat because of storage or something.
Yeah, what they miss there is they say if you don't eat enough, your thyroid's going to slow down. So let's just say that, like right now, I want to drop 10 pounds. And I was eating 2,000 calories per day, and I dropped down to 1,800 calories per day. I dropped 10 pounds. My thyroid would slow down. Normally, it doesn't become hypothyroid like I need to treat it. It's a normal metabolic slowdown, which means now you can survive on less calories. So you have to spend more money on food. I mean, actually, losing weight and getting healthy is pretty cheap. Stop overeating. It's really simple, right? So think about it if we were hunter-gatherer type people. So let's just say the worst happens, and you got these pockets of people who are now living, in the rural areas, and they're out there hunting. Well, why would you want to wake up, eat a big meal, and then go chase a deer? Good luck with that.
Yeah.
My brother and I played golf the other day, and we saw a mama deer and a baby deer go flying by. If I'm a big fatty with like a ham sandwich hanging out of my mouth, right, hypertense and obese and diabetic, I'm going to go running after a deer. Good luck. This would be impossible. Right. So we wake up. The way the hunt works historically is you wake up and off you go to hunt or forage. If you have a big full belly of food, do you want to bend over and pick stuff up and crawl around the ground gathering food? Or do you want to climb trees with the big belly that's just no. So we normally, historically, we always ate more at night, at the end of the day, because that was when the day stopped. This idea of 3 square, you guys have heard of Edward Bernays, have you not?
Like Bernays sauce?
Not Bernays sauce. He's the double nephew of Sigmund Freud.
Okay.
Okay.
And he wrote the famous book called Propaganda. And if you look at it was when Woodrow Wilson, this is where he sort of became semi-famous. He was it was for the Committee of Public Information.
Oh.
I think that's the title of it, right?
Yeah.
I think I should have it in there maybe, or in the other book. Yeah.
I think it might have been in the weight
the
loss
Secrets
book.
book.
And it was in the weight loss book. I remember that. Yeah, that was great. The pictures were amazing, yeah.
Yeah, so Edward Bernays is the guy who basically got us to eat bacon for breakfast. He got women to smoke.
Oh, gosh.
The American population has no idea that they don't even own their own brains. We own the brains of our advertisers. Right. And the politicians, I mean, you think about what the definition of a politician. Someone who will say anything to get into office. Well, let's cheer for them. I mean, it's just mind-boggling, right?
Right.
So you have the advertisers and the politicians. We're like, okay. Right, so we don't even own our own brains. So when it comes to eating food, we have been basically manipulated to think that you have to do 3 a day, 3 square a day, or eat 6 a day, spread it out. This is all made up stuff. All made up stuff. So it's very clear, the science is very, very clear that compacting your eating hours is far more beneficial for your metabolism than spreading it all out.
Okay.
Your body needs to be in a fasted state for at least 13 hours to get the metabolic benefits of calorie avoidance. And so that is kind of a made-up thing done again, what you heard there about, like, it's different because if you're a hunter-gatherer, you could pig out at night, right? I mean, if you bag a boar or a deer or whatever it is, and you carry that sucker home, well, you're going to be pigging out at the end of the day.
Right.
Like if you watch even, I don't know how real that Alaska thing is with the kids, the family of crazy people out there in Alaska.
Hey, we like those guys.
So They're like a 500 yard, 1,000 yard. They bag a big moose.
Right.
Right. You're going to drag home a moose filled with food. You got to be like, first of all, you're hungry, but if you're metabolically fit, you can be without food and not feel hungry because you'll be able to utilize your own fat, and then you have enough energy to drag the deer back, butcher it up, and then pig out and go to sleep, and then next day you do what you have to do. But it's ridiculous to wake up and just stuff food down your throat. Really? It makes no sense to do that. Like the whole idea, breakfast should be the biggest meal of the day. Eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. Dumbest recommendation ever.
That's very interesting. And if you look at, I guess, too, even different religions, there's fasting involved in almost every religion.
Many different practices.
They have, they say, whatever, different fasting.
Absolutely. So you think about fasting, and now those religions had fasting before there was 7-Eleven to get drive-by self-shooting food, right?
Right.
They were fasting from healthy food.
Right. Yeah, as a sacrifice to, or penance.
And if you go to for example, like Eastern religions, it's almost like we're going to fast so that we are not touched, not so controlled by the material world. Right, control ourselves and look within, that kind of stuff.
Kind of a self-discipline.
And a detachment from material tendencies.
Right.
Not feeding our passions.
Yeah, interesting.
This is quite remarkable because, as you mentioned, like all this race for the cure and the pink ribbons and all that stuff it seems like it's all about research, and people, if some drugs are going to save us all, or some gene therapy is going to save us all, or something. And you're saying that the solutions are a lot closer to home than that.
Yeah, there is no. This whole thing about looking for a cure, that's just what the dietary crackheads are hoping, so they can keep being dietary crackheads. I mean, they don't know that there's no cure. You cannot cure a metabolic disease that is turned on by lifestyle. So you cannot do all the things wrong with your lifestyle and then wait for a drug to cure you. I mean, that's more like, I don't know, that's more like Star Wars stuff, or Bones on Star Trek with his recorder thing and doing that. I mean, that's not going to happen in our lifetimes. There's no way you can cure trashed mitochondria by taking a drug and sitting on your butt and eating cookies. So that's just ridiculous. All that is, I mean, it's people are looking for hope basically when it comes, and they hope that this big organization is going to help find the cure. But the problem is, if the cure is found, that big organization goes away, and the people who work there need new jobs. So it's not going away.
Right.
It is not going away.
Yeah.
Depression is not going to go away by drugs. None of these things go away. You have to just get back to the way you were when you were young and not depressed. As simple as that.
Right.
Now, it's different nowadays because the social media can make younger people depressed. When I was young like that, I wasn't depressed.
No.
Because I didn't have that stuff. I was like, I'm going to do this. I was pursuing stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've definitely gotten into a society, and there's a cartoon out there where you've got people in a line. They're all lined up on the left side, and you've got some very small line on the right, and on the left it's these people who do not want to exercise and do not want to eat right. They just want to go for the drugs that will hopefully help them, and the long is much longer on that side. And I think it's just because, we are kind of maybe lazy in nature, or we've gotten more lazy. We couldn't afford to be lazy way back when we were hunter-gatherers. We had to do it or we'd starve to death.
Right.
And now we get this food, very easily to us. So we do have to have that self-discipline to say, I want to be healthy, and I'm going to work to be healthy. And that, you can be and happiness in some sense is a choice. You can be happy with that, or you can be sad and go get your drug to hopefully get happy.
Right. Yeah. It really is highly problematic, and the idea that again somehow that a medication is going to cure us is really problematic, and it kind of makes me think. First of all, it is laziness because our society facilitates our own lazy. I mean, who really wants to go running around chasing a deer? I'd much rather go over to the store and buy deer meat, right?
Sure.
So does that mean I'm lazy? It means I'd rather do something else to stay active than go hunting deer. So the Truman Show. He's like, why does Truman how come he hasn't questioned all this? And the guy accurately says, well, what we're presented with, we accept as reality.
Right. Right.
And so the reality that we have been given in terms of health and disease is that the big brother, all the industrial complexes are going to help us, and they're looking to like fix us. But that's ridiculous, because those industrial complexes thrive on the conditions that exist. So the idea of like a cure for cancer or all these other diseases, if you had a cure for cancer, I mean, truly, how many people would lose jobs? Not just the cancer of the various society. We're talking hospital wings going bye-bye, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so it's business.
Insurance companies going under because they make money off of the people who are sick, not the people who are well.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Dr. Seaman, for people who want to find out more about your work in how the connection between nutrition, inflammation, and cancer avoidance, where can they get more information?
They can just go right to DeFlame, as it says, like deflame your breasts, DeFlame.com. And that homepage, you can see books. You can click around and find information elsewhere. You can go to my YouTube channel, and I post videos. I'm not a regular crazy, like every day or week doing videos, because I'm like, what should I do? And the next thing I know, it's like a month that goes by. Because I try not to just do them like, take this for that. Because then if you do, it's just, imagine being Dr. Oz, having to do 5 days a week, right? Magical cures, 5 days.
Right. That's pretty hard, yeah.
So I post, I want to do like one every 2 weeks. I'm probably like one a month now for videos, but it'll be deflame.com. Simple as that.
Great.
Yep.
Okay.
So anyone, we've been talking with Dr. David Seaman. He is a breakthrough researcher and author in the area of nutrition and its link to inflammation and health. Dr. Seaman, thank you for joining us on HealingYourself.Life and Reluctant Preppers.
Right.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Great.
Hey, HealingYourself.Life viewers.
We need your help in enabling us to continue to create great health videos for you.
So please support our mission by going to patreon.com/healingyourself and pledging any monthly amount you can.
Your pledge will also help us to afford a new Lyme peptide treatment therapy to improve our memory, and we will report on our progress to benefit you and others.
So remember, go to patreon.com/healingyourself and pledge today.
Were you going to tell them to go to patreon.com/healingyourself to pledge to help our memory treatment?
I thought I did. I'll do it. So please go to patreon.com/healingyourself and pledge today.
Thanks.
Hey, Reluctant Preppers. If you haven't heard, we've already started our monthly 1-ounce U.S. Silver Eagle thank you gift to one active Patreon subscriber each month, signed by your host, Dunnigan Kaiser. And you don't want to miss out on that.
Please help us grow by subscribing today at patreon.com/reluctantpreppers.